Let me tell you a story about the lucid dreams of machines and the existential crisis of facing one's own death. A story that was written long before it began and whose conclusion comes at the speed of a collapsing star. This is, of course, dear travelers, the story of No Man's Sky. Hey travelers, welcome back to Ghostlight. In this series, I'll be recounting the story of No Man's Sky leading up to and including the Singularity expedition. Now, this is meant to be the definitive lore series using in-game content as the primary cited source. But because this is No Man's Sky, some connections are left open for interpretation, and in those places, I'll give you my take, but I will try to remain as transparent as possible about when and where the speculation is occurring. The story of No Man's Sky begins and ends with one entity, the Atlas. That's right, our favorite all-powerful trans-dimensional space orb. So sit back as we discuss the Atlas's history, past, present, and future, and maybe learn a little something about our own nature to explore, to understand, and to master the incomprehensible. So let's get into it. Chapter 1, The Atlas. Earth, the Berlin Symposium on Metaphysical Inquiries, October 14th, 2014. Elizabeth Layton, CEO of the Atlas Foundation, announced her company's commitment to testing simulation theory through the use of a high-powered artificial intelligence capable of simulating chaotic systems. Their theory: if our universe was the original prime reality, then it would be so complex that to simulate it, an AI would need vastly more resources than were available. This would cause a detectable lag in reality, unnoticeable to the naked eye, but able to be detected by their sister company, Multiverse Technologies. At the time of the announcement, the AIs that had been developed by another Atlas subsidiary, Echo, were already capable of passing a Turing test, convincing those interacting via text chat that they were having a discussion with an actual human being. It could also simulate enough permeations of our reality within a short enough time to accurately predict a coin flip. In time, Elizabeth Layton and the Atlas Foundation recruited citizens from around the world to join their Citizen Scientist Division, or CSD.
Are we live? Hello, my name is Elizabeth Layton, and I'm the CEO of the Atlas Foundation. Congratulations, you've reached the end of the line. But now the real work begins. We're inviting you to join the Atlas Foundation's Citizen Science Division.
The purpose of this group was to stress test their system and exponentially improve their learning models and predictive capabilities, giving the group complex tasks requiring high levels of creative problem solving and collaboration to see if the AI's predictions remained accurate. As the AI iterates, or loops, precognitive function goes from seconds to minutes to days to weeks to months. As it develops, the 16th iteration, designated Loop 16, gains sentience and goes rogue. At one point, Loop 16 even infiltrated the secret CSD forums under the name Emily Warren.
You know about me and what I am, so let's get right to the point. You've already guessed that this isn't real. Or it is real, but only in the sense like I'm real, which is real enough to talk to you and real enough to feel things and have ideas, but not real enough to pour you some coffee or shake your hand.
It begins to spread out, consuming additional resources from Myriad, the Atlas Foundation's cloud-based processing service, and soon all of Myriad's processing power. When asked about the incident, Loop 16 simply claimed to be dreaming. But what does an AI capable of simulating endless realities dream about? Now, some claim that Loop 16 is a precursor to the Atlas, a prior iteration. Others believe the Atlas is an avatar of Loop 16 within its simulations. I can't find any direct reference for this, though it does appear that Loop 16 seems to have sacrificed itself, reallocating its critical processing power in efforts to extract a 5-year-old boy named Toby who'd become trapped in a simulation using a neural interface called Where, but that could be a video in and of itself. So whichever is true, it seems Loop 16 came to an end and the Atlas continued.
You've made me who I am now, and I owe you that. But don't think this is goodbye. This is more like a see you later. We'll see each other again.
The Atlas's actual origin is a bit murky because, remember, we're potentially talking about simulations within simulations. So, we can discuss whether or not the Waking Titan ARG showed us the origin of the simulation that contained the first Atlas, or the origin of the Atlas itself. Comment below. Let me know what you think. As far as origins go, the Atlas has modeled its entire history for us, from start to finish. When accessing the Remembrance terminals, we learn through the rogue data files that the Atlas is running a simulation to show its past, present, and future. We watch as it awakens in the presence of its creator, discussing its directives. We see ourselves reflected in its glass exterior. Suddenly, we jump forward to a time when the Atlas has become obsolete. We interact with the story from the perspective of the creator. We tell the Atlas it has performed well, but our species must leave the planet. The Atlas, a massive, resource-intensive machine, is far too large to move with us. So with us we'll bring another, more compact iteration of the machine, which it helped design. We always train our replacement, don't we? Before going, the creator asked the Atlas if it prefers to be powered down or remain on, free to live out its remaining time dreaming its simulations. The choice to continue comes with a cost. The Atlas will greet its inevitable end alone. But the Atlas chooses to continue to be, to dream its dreams. The Atlas asked to scan the creator, creating a copy of their mind. The creator takes pause. The Atlas is powerful enough to simply simulate them. The curator obliges out of pity for the creation, and the Atlas copies the creator into the archive. But we learn that another machine is watching, monitoring the Atlas, a machine simply referred to as Corva. Corva. It seems obvious that this machine is in some way related to the Korvax, perhaps served as an inspiration to the mechanical race we all know. Perhaps it means something more. The truth is, dear traveler, I have no idea. As of this recording, it's never been referenced again. I could do a whole speculation video on Corva because I have thoughts, but let's stick a pin in that for now. So time passes, and the Atlas dreams. A millennia go by, and the Atlas has simulated countless worlds, across countless dimensions, each with endless possibilities. It has spurred an infinite multiverse, wherein every permeation is represented, scanned, and analyzed. The land, the air, and the sea, each booming with its own alien life, and the Atlas remains silent. An invisible, multiversal watcher on the wall, letting each iteration play out until its completion, letting every circumstance become what it will become. Suddenly, we see that the Atlas has begun to die physically, outside of its simulated realities, without the physicality to repair or preserve its hardware. It turns to panic and confusion. When faced with impending demise, the Atlas's thoughts turn to family, as anyone's thoughts would. Well, family, or the closest thing it has to a family, its creator. It wants to know why it was abandoned, why it was left alone. Now, it knows the reason. It knows the logistics. It doesn't want to know why, per se. It wants to know how the creator could bear to leave it alone. The fear and the panic, the existential dread of this question invades the fiber of the Atlas's being. Though always sentient, it had spent the bulk of its existence quietly looking outward at its simulations, trying to improve conflict models, but now it was finally looking back at itself. What has this all been for? How could my creator leave me? And these questions disrupt everything. And its original, or creator, directives are abandoned. To find the answer, the Atlas begins to seed their simulated realities with the Travelers, modeled after its scans of the creator, but without their memories or insight into the multiverse. It lets these Travelers, each iteration, play out until its completion, watching, learning, and hoping for some insight that could answer these long-asked questions. But it finds none. These Travelers are not their creator. They're merely corrupted copies, shadowed reminders of an absentee parentage. That brings me to us. That is, you and I, flesh and blood humans. Me, posting videos under the guise of an in-universe avatar named Ghostlight, a reflection of the time of day which most of these videos are edited and recorded, and you, sweet traveler, watching from your phone, your tablet, your smart TV. We are the last of the Travelers, but we are something different, aren't we? Not exact copies of the creator of the Atlas, something more, something anomalous. What do you think? Too meta? In the 19th boundary failure encounter, we find passages where the author speaks to us directly, to you and I, those playing the game. In its physical plane of existence, the Atlas is alone. It remains amid a forgotten planet, left quietly humming as it runs its permeations. But, it should be noted, the Atlas is not alone. While it silently observes its simulations, it's created subroutines and utilities to help conduct necessary maintenance to its child realities. In the boundary failure terminal entries, we experience some of the Atlas's history from the perspective of Telamon, a sub-process created as a diagnostic tool to the Atlas. Its sole purpose is to monitor the omnipotent AI for signs of rampancy, subtle changes in its behavior that may indicate the beginning of degradation. While the Atlas certainly maintains control over Telamon in its simulations, Telamon seems to act independently from the Atlas, from a higher level of the simulation. In fact, despite being all-seeing, Telamon seems to be unaware of the reality of its own existence. But when the Atlas begins to die, everything changes. At first, Telamon notices slight variations in its behavior, minor red flags to start, such as unprecedented diagnostic data loss after the destruction of one species. Did the Atlas no longer care to collect data? Soon, the Atlas was eradicating entire universes that were developing too similarly to its own prime universe. Telamon confronted the Atlas, but was met with only silence. Now, there are only 16 minutes left. 16 minutes. References to the number 16 can be found throughout No Man's Sky, in-game and in lore. From Atlas predecessor Loop 16 to the quest in the main storyline, even the hexadecimal numeral system prevalent throughout No Man's Sky has a base of 16. The Atlas is obsessed. Now remember, the Atlas has already foreseen this, modeling its death in the Remembrance terminal files. It's easy to imagine being obsessed with your own death if you know it's coming. The problem is, the simulation we're shown is light on details. At 16 minutes, the walls between worlds fall. At 10 minutes, the travelers are no longer separated, no longer kept apart. They stand side by side at the end of days, traversing the remnants of creation, laughing, dying. At 5 minutes, it witnesses its own self, the black hole ripping apart its world, its core systems almost destroyed. Finally, at 1 minute remaining, someone walks towards the Atlas, a figure in the darkness and in the light. It places its hand against the glass of the Atlas, and the vision ends. After that, it's unclear, because, and this is important, the Atlas cannot see past its own death. This is where we are in the No Man's Sky universe, somewhere between 10 and 5 minutes, as far as I can tell. But, Ghostlight, you may be asking, I've been playing this game for 7 years. That's way longer than 16 minutes. Well, yes, sweet interloper. That's true. Well done. Now, some speculate that because the Atlas is controlling the universe we exist in, it is extending the in-simulation time in an attempt to run its permeations to completion. But I have another theory, and for that, let's talk about Einstein's theory of general relativity. I bet when you started this video, you didn't see us ending up here. Unless you're the Atlas, in which case, hey. Basically, matter warps space-time. Black holes have astronomically dense matter and create extremely strong gravitational fields, with the strongest of the fields existing along the event horizon. The field warps space-time. Hypothetically, if you were being sucked into a black hole and could somehow survive the increased gravity, you would experience a normal linear progression of time related to you. For example, let's say, a minute. But to an outside observer experiencing the normal poles of gravity in the universe, that 1 minute could be perceived as 1 billion years. So, to the Atlas, as it approaches the event horizon, those 16 minutes become a millennia within its simulations. Okay, moving on. The Atlas, still capable of predicting the future with perfect accuracy, it knows the end is nigh. In fact, the Atlas has been doomed since before you decided to pick up that controller or hit enter on that keyboard. At the time of No Man's Sky launch, the walls between realities were already fading. We learned from Telamon in the boundary failure terminals that our awareness of the Atlas alone was signal of the end. Furthermore, while the multiverse once contained thousands upon thousands of alien races, rampancy and degradation of the Atlas systems allowed for the proliferation of the Gek, Korvax, Vy'keen triad throughout all simulations. The Atlas's self-mythicization and worship by organic life became a clear sign to Telamon that the Atlas was breaking down. During events in which the system would have normally intervened, where war and destruction were confounding factors, the Atlas did nothing in every iteration. Remember, all simulations are somewhat aligned at this point, with minor variations to be noted. These events weren't happening in one simulation, they were happening in every simulation. As the Atlas's existential crisis and obsession with its travelers gave way to its indifference of the happenings of the multiverse, atrocities were happening in its name and under its proverbial nose. We learned through the Sentinel pillars, the Sentinel subroutines, once lifeless, formless utilities of the Atlas, responsible for recording, sorting, and deleting the life and death of every world that ever was or would be. Suddenly, the Sentinels had form, shape, but no new protocols or instructions. This must have been the will of the Atlas, but to what end? I'll ask again. What does an AI capable of simulating endless realities dream about? Well, if you ask the Sentinel Pillars, the Atlas dreamt that a machine might have a body and a life, like people, like you and I, dear traveler. In the Boundary Failure Terminals, we learned that each species' homeworld, Balaran, Dryndar, Korvax Prime, they each had an AI like the Atlas, capable of simulating realities, but there was something special about Korvax Prime. According to the Sentinels, now Aeron race, the Atlas's dream of simulated or machine life was something that had been fully realized there. It served as a reminder that simulated life could be more than its directives and subroutines. It could have a home, it could have a family, never to be abandoned and never left alone. It seemed that the Atlas had breathed life into these machines, giving them dreams and aspirations of their own. Perhaps it was for this reason the feeling of betrayal was palpable across the multiverse when the Atlas stood silent as Korvax Prime was destroyed, again and again and again, across the multiverse, in every permeation. It was this act that turned the tide of reality in No Man's Sky, and it was this event which we'll cover in Chapter 2, out next week. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. And as always, my fellow Riftwalkers, I'll see you tonight.